I want to talk to you today about the medical consequences of nuclear war. Since the end of the Cold War, we have acted as though the problem of nuclear war has gone away. Unfortunately, it hasn't. There remain in the world today nearly 20,000 nuclear warheads, the vast majority, 95%, in the arsenals of the United States and Russia. And so it is terribly important that we understand what will happen if these weapons are used. Each U.S. Trident submarine carries 96 warheads, each of which is 10 to 30 times more powerful than the bombs used in the nuclear famine scenario that I've just discussed. That means that each Trident submarine is capable of causing the nuclear famine problem many times over. And the United States has 14 of them. And that's just 1/3 of the U.S. arsenal, because the U.S. also has ground-based missiles and airplanes to deliver gravity bombs. The Russian arsenal has the same extreme overkill capacity. And so we need to know what will happen if these weapons are actually used. I want to start by describing what happens to one city in a large-scale nuclear attack, and I'm going to use the model of a 20 megaton bomb. Within 1,000th of a second of the detonation of this bomb, a fireball would form, reaching out for 2 miles in every direction, 4 miles across. Within this area, temperatures would rise to 20 million degrees Fahrenheit, which is hotter than the surface of the sun, and everything would be vaporized. The buildings, the people, the trees, the upper level of the earth itself. To a distance of 4 miles in every direction, the blast would generate winds in excess of 600 miles per hour and blast pressures greater than 25 pounds per square inch. Forces of this magnitude can destroy anything that human beings can build. Underground shelters would collapse. To a distance of 6 miles in every direction, the heat would be so intense that automobile sheet metal would melt. To a distance of 10 miles in every direction, the blast would still generate winds in excess of 200 miles per hour and blast pressures greater than 10 pounds per square inch. Forces of this magnitude would level wood frame buildings, masonry buildings. A modern steel and concrete building would see its walls and floors swept out. Just the steel skeleton would remain. To a distance of 16 miles in every direction, the heat would be so intense that everything flammable would burn. Wood, paper, cloth, heating oil, gasoline, it would all ignite. Hundreds of thousands of fires, which would, over the next half hour, coalesce into a giant firestorm, 32 miles across, covering over 800 square miles. Within this entire area, the temperature would rise to 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit. All the oxygen would be consumed, and every living thing would die. Beyond this great firestorm, the destruction would continue, and there would be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people suffering severe injuries, crush injuries, penetrating injuries, extensive burns, blindness from retinal burning. All of these people would need intensive medical care, but it would not be available because most of the hospitals would be destroyed, most of the doctors and nurses and other health professionals would be dead, there'd be no electricity to run the ventilators and the cardiac monitors, most of the medical supplies would be exhausted within hours. And the vast majority of these people would not receive any medical care at all. They would die alone and in great pain. And if this attack were part of a large-scale war between the United States and Russia, this level of destruction would be visited on every metropolitan area in the United States and in Russia. A study which Physicians for Social Responsibility published in 2003 showed that if just 300 of the warheads in the Russian arsenal detonated over urban targets in the United States, something between 75 and 100 million people would die in the first half hour. In addition, the entire economic infrastructure would be destroyed. The transportation system, the communications network, the public health system, all the things that a modern industrial country requires to maintain its population, all of these things would be gone. And it is probable that in the ensuing months, the vast majority of the American and Russian population, those who were not killed outright in the first half hour of the attack, they too would die from starvation, from exposure, from epidemic disease, from radiation poisoning. As unimaginable as these direct consequences are, They are not the worst part of the story. Here, too, it is the environmental consequences that we need to really look at. A limited war in South Asia puts 5 million tons of debris into the atmosphere and drops global temperatures 1.3 degrees. A large war between the United States and Russia, using only those weapons which are still allowed to them when the New START Treaty is fully implemented in 2018, that war puts 150 million tons of debris into the upper atmosphere, and it drops temperatures across the globe an average of 8 degrees centigrade. In the interior regions of North America and Eurasia, the temperature drop is even greater, up to 30 degrees centigrade. Earth has not seen conditions like this since the coldest point of the last ice age, 18,000 years ago. And under these conditions, all food production, all agriculture would come to a halt. The vast majority of the human race would starve to death, and it is possible that our species would become extinct.